so I came to law school wanting to do civil rights work. I had in my mind sort of the image of the Legal Defense Fund and the work that they had done historically to bring about racial justice, or we haven't brought it about yet, but pursuing racial justice. And so that was sort of what brought me to law school. I have stayed with that passion of wanting to pursue racial justice, and as we know, it's needed now as much as ever. But that vision has sort of evolved since I've been here, so I'm now looking more into community-based civil rights work, more into community lawyering, and have had some powerful experiences with direct services work and exploring that as well.
Yeah, also coming from an education background, I think that dealing with students, you do see a lot of these systemic issues, and you want to be able to help your students at a more systemic level and interface with these institutions. And I think that the legal community really offers you a way into networks, whether it's politics or just in legal work, addressing a lot of these issues. So that's what originally drew me in as well. Also just wanting to have a dynamic degree that I can do a lot of different things with. So I plan to work at a firm during the summer, but I know that next summer I can do legal aid work. I think that there's a lot of different things that once you have this skill set as a lawyer, you can interface with your community in a lot of different ways. So I think that was very appealing to me.
Yeah, and for me, it's always been about increasing the number of options that I have moving forward. And so the thing with the law degree is that you're not limited to any one field, but having to do any one thing. And so for me, as a child, I knew I wanted to get into business, and I knew I wanted to later get into politics. And when I looked at business leaders and politicians and kind of what that field looks like, what you see is that a lot of them have a law degree. And so what I said is that at some point I'll attend law school. That time happened a lot quicker for me than I thought it would, but it was really about expanding the number of options and not limiting myself.
For myself, I think the choice to come to law school was partly based on after finishing college and my first job, I spent about 6 months looking for work and really struggled to find it, which I did not figure would happen. You know, I was like, oh, you went to Yale, like you'll never have any trouble finding a job. And I think what I really wanted was similar to what some of the other panelists have said, a degree that would afford me a number of opportunities that would open up a lot of doors and kind of, you know, of course nothing can prevent that from ever happening again, but to the best of my ability to position myself to be able to work indefinitely across a number of different fields and sectors. And with the interest in international law and sort of foreign affairs work, many of the people that I looked to that were doing it had legal degrees, so I figured if it was good enough for them, it was good enough for me, so I went for it.
Thank you, guys. So for our next question, I'm going to kind of combine two of the questions that I sent you. So what influenced your decision about where to go to law school and also when to go to law school, in terms of either right after school or waiting a few years? And then for Christina, if you could speak to what you generally see in applications in terms of what helps people to be able to write a meaningful application and thinking about when to go to law school.
Okay, so in answering those questions, you know, how do you recommend going straight through or taking time off? We really see a wide range. I think since the recession, fewer people change careers when they're older. It used to be that we had a lot of people who come back a little bit later after a few years of doing something else. But I think, as our presenter said, Taya Grace, that, you know, these days it's a huge investment. You know, it is a big financial investment. So we do really want you to consider it before you go. So what we do see is we do have about a third of our applicants come directly from college. That's totally up to you. It's not a preference, but we do see that most people have 1 or 2 years off from college before they go. And for those who come directly from college, we do like to see that you have really thought about this decision, that you've felt that this is the right thing for you, that you're not doing it as a default degree, because we know it's a lot of work to go, to attend, and then to pursue that career. But if you do want to take time off, that's great too. I don't really see a downside to taking time off, because whatever you do, there's really not a preference for what you do after law school. We see everything, like whether you're a paralegal or you teach or you work for the government. It's really a wide range of things. And so usually if you want to try something before law school, it's really helpful to do that beforehand, because once you go to law school, you have more of a situation where you're set up to do certain kinds of jobs. And so you might not have as much flexibility to take time off. But in terms of
Well, that was what influenced to go to law school, so
Yeah.
the other panelists can speak to that one
Okay,
for sure.
wonderful, thank you.
George?
What influenced me to go to law school and to do it the way that I did? I worked for 4 years after college I did higher education administration, campaign work, and finally I was a consultant in DC. And I would strongly recommend taking the time to work or to do things beyond just immediately beginning your legal career. Unless you are very, very certain that like you want to go to law school and have a good idea of like how that's going to fit into your plan for things going forward. For me, I came out of college very much like I'm done. I learned everything I need to know. Like I never need to go back to school. I got it figured out. I was wrong. I'm frequently wrong. And for me, I just needed that time to think about whether law school was the right choice, and I would recommend that. And it gives you a lot of exposure and gives you a chance to see that there are courses that you can go without it, and that there are others that, like, if that's really what you want to do, it's the only way to go.
Yeah, so I didn't take time off from school before coming to law school, but I would say I think that should be the presumption. You should presume that you're going to take time off, and you should set a standard for yourself that says, I will go straight through if this happens. For me, it was if a T14 school gives me the full ride, I'll go straight through. And it worked out, but having went straight through and sitting as a 3L now, it's really hard to maintain that type of focus. And compared to my classmates who took time off, they were more excited about coming back to school, and so they can kind of do it longer. And your first year is extremely hard. So after my first year, I was just kind of over school, and so the last 2 years have been much more of a struggle. Not because it's harder, but because I just am tired of school. In terms of coming in, it's really important that you know yourself. And me knowing that I'm not a fan of school, but I need to go to law school, that means I couldn't take 4 years off because I may not have went back. And that's just me knowing myself. And in terms of going to NYU, I wanted to live in New York City. And so I think you should think of kind of money as well, but also where you want to live and where you want to practice. So that's what
I took several years off, and a lot of the stuff that I was doing after undergrad was a lot of the stuff that I had been doing as an undergrad on the volunteer level, and just kind of outreach and education and things like that. So it was mostly getting back into that work full time, and also kind of wrapping up projects that I had started as an undergrad and trying to build them on the city level. And I didn't know that I wanted to go to law school right after undergrad. So a lot of the time that I spent after graduation was trying to reach out. My major was political science. So a lot of people encouraged me to go to law school, but I don't have any lawyers in my family. I didn't know any lawyers growing up or anything like that. So it was a lot of just kind of networking and trying to reach out to lawyers, like, what do you actually do? Is this something that I can see myself doing? What does this involve? So if you're in high school, or you're in undergrad rather, and you know about what a T14 school is, if you know about what lawyers do, then I think it's a lot easier to make that transition and to just make the right decision to go straight through. But for me, it was just taking the time to gather information, just being comfortable with, this is what a lawyer does, this is something that I can see myself doing, and then saying, okay, I'm ready now to start applying and make this happen. Why I came to NYU was because I knew I wanted to be in New York. I knew I wanted to try out big law, and I knew that New York was the best place to do that, and I wanted to go into a program that would put me around a good support network, put me with mentors, and the scholarship program here at NYU definitely did that for me. So that was an easy decision to make once I knew what I really wanted to get out of my law school experience. And for me, that was really mentoring and support network.
I'll echo the comments about taking time off. I'm really glad that I took those 2 years. I think it's enriched my experience while I've been at NYU. As far as the decision to come to NYU, that was really a personal journey for me of making this decision. So going into it, I knew I was coming to law school to go into public interest law afterwards, to serve people who would not have access to the law and access to legal representation if they had to pay. And so it was the top priority of mine to make sure that I went to a law school that was going to support me in this vision of not wanting to go out, not planning to go into corporate law, and not wanting to feel pushed into doing that, and not wanting to feel obligated to do that. And that was really my main priority when I was picking law schools. And what I found at NYU was a strong community of public interest students and support for those public interest students. So if that's something you're thinking about, I strongly encourage you to look into the public interest centers at the law schools that you're looking at. And that applies, I think, to other interests. If you're interested in international law, if there's something specifically that you want to do and that you know you want to do the research to make sure that the law schools that you want to attend will provide that. And take the time to talk to people at those schools about those opportunities. One particular opportunity that really swayed me to come to NYU is the scholarship program that I'm a part of. It's called the Ruth Tilden Kern Scholarship. Kayla is also a scholar. In that program, there are 20 students per year who receive full tuition scholarships, who are committed to going into public interest law. And there is a requirement that you will go practice public interest law for 10 years after graduation. And it provides a community, a network of people who are going into that field. So I really encourage you all, if you're interested in public interest law, to do that. And then another plug of what I was interested in was finding a strong Black community, finding a BALSA community that was vibrant and that existed. And everyone will make their own personal decision about how much that matters, but I did find a community here that I thought was unique.
Thank you guys. I'm just going to also add my own personal plug for taking some time off before law school. I worked for 4 years as a teacher after undergrad, and when you get into law school, there's a very much like a tide effect of you're not really sure what you're doing. Everyone is like hyper concerned about grades. Then everyone's hyper concerned about where they're going for the summer. And if you are coming straight out of undergrad, in my experience, those people are more likely to feel sort of overwhelmed by that process that is consistently trying to compare you and rank you and build hierarchies, which is one, totally unnecessary, but two, very much a part of the law school experience. And so I think if you've taken time off, you've worked, and you have very clear understanding of why you're going to law school, it's easier to be around that without falling into that. And it can be particularly alienating for students of color. So that's sort of why I also encourage people to take some time off and really figure out what they want to do before deciding to go to law school. And so sort of coming off of that for the panelists, looking back, what is one thing that you now realize makes a big difference in your life as a law student that you didn't necessarily consider when you were making the decision of where to go to school? And we'll start with Michael for this one.
So just coming in my first year here, I think that the one thing that's really made the biggest impact, and I did kind of consider it, but I didn't realize how much of an impact it would be, was just being around people like us in this room right now. I mean, the BALSA here is so strong. And it's become my support group, it's become my friend group, it's become a mentor system. It's just become a lot of different things that I didn't expect it to be, and it's good to have.